What's better than one mock draft? Two mock drafts. That's what's better than one mock draft. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And I've got my normal co-host after games, but this is not after games. There is no games. However, David is joining me either way. David, how you doing, my man? I think you're muted. You're definitely muted. There it is. Now I can hear you.
All right, I get that was weird. Okay, so yeah, I'm feeling good, man. I'm repping my tribal chief Roman Reigns. So I was just at WWE Raw on Monday. I was so disappointed that he wasn't there. Saw Seth Rollins almost stomp Paul Heyman, and then did stomp CM Punk. So I was happy about that. But I'm ready. It's draft season, man. This is my favorite time of year. When I'm not doing post game shows with you, that I was telling my wife, like, this is like, I was like so stoked to get on here with you. One, it's always good to see my guy Jesse, but also talking draft. And I think the way we're doing this tonight is going to be really fun for all viewers. So if you're tuning in, I think this is going to be one people want to go back and watch. And then we're going to be live together on draft night here in about, what is it now? 15 days, almost 2 weeks from tomorrow. So
yeah, I can't wait, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be you, I believe Rohan, myself. Marco's not going to be able to join us. This somehow falls on Marco's anniversary or
wife's birthday. His wife's birthday. Year. Well, she gets the whole weekend. She gets the whole weekend.
Making it up. He makes it up. What? It's just, it's not even realistic. I don't believe him. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. All right. Either way, you'll be there. Oh. And I always tell my whole chat when I'm talking about prospects, I'll often bring up a prospect and I'll say, oh, my guy David or my guy Marco brought this guy up to me, or he really likes this guy or whatever. You two are so into this whole process. You literally are posting about prospects in like November and December, and then all of a sudden you retweet them in March when everybody's finally figuring out who they are, and you're like, oh yeah, no, been on that guy. Oh no, that's one of my guys. So I love doing this with you. In fact, we're gonna like have people vote on who they think had the better mock. I'm probably gonna vote for yours because, truth be told, you're just better at this than I am. But I'll do my best. I'm gonna try to hold the candle to yours. So here's what we're gonna do. I've got my draft, I've got David's drafts, and I've got us. We are going to blindly make picks. So I'm going to have my draft going, which will be different from David's. We're not in the same draft room. I am going to make my picks. He's going to make his. And after each round, we're going to pull up the draft to see who each other picked and then talk through why. And we're also going to have other draft conversation. I want to know like who's David's like 3 guys that he's okay with at 11, who are 3 to stay away from. And we're just going to talk through the draft as a whole. So let's do this, David. Let's establish some ground rules because we have not discussed this either. Are we going to do trades? Yes or no?
I would prefer not. I think in this, and if you want to, there's no rules. I think the way that's going to work is going to be kind of cool because we're going to be blind. Like we're not going to see. We'll talk about who we're picking and things like that. We'll talk in between about things. But as opposed to doing these drafts 2 back to back, we're kind of going through and see. And there might be picks where we might be we settle on the same person. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be some diversity, and I think the only thing with trades is it gets clunky, and sometimes these simulators are a little bit odd on what they accept and what they don't.
Yeah. Usually, I think I've only done trades and I think one. And my rule is I only accept trades that are thrown my way. I don't want to offer anything. Like if they offer me, then sure. But I agree. I think the best way to do this is to just go chalk. We'll talk about the picks the 49ers actually have. Obviously, I would say it's more likely than not that they are going to make some sort of draft trade throughout this process. But where that trade comes, do they move up? Do they move down? It's going to be really hard to say. So that being said, we'll reject all trades and let's make our first pick while we are here, and then we'll talk through them. Like, can I ask you this too? Actually, while we're getting ready to make these picks, let me pull this up because I have a list of guys that I just expect to be gone, essentially. And you tell me if you agree. So I think there's 8 guys pretty much for sure that are not going to be there when the 49ers draft, or at least it's trending towards that way. So first one is Cam Ward. We agree on that, right?
Yep.
Abdul Carter.
Yep.
Travis Hunter.
Yep.
Mason Graham.
Yeah.
Okay.
Possibly. I mean, yeah, I think Mason Graham will be gone. I think he's one of those interesting guys that I think there's going to be a team that loves him, but I don't know. He's one of those interesting guys to follow. I don't. He will not be a guy that I will not be dumbfounded. I think there's been this early in the process, like he's this big. I'm not going to be dumbfounded if he's still there in that 9 through 11 range.
Okay. Armand Membu.
Yeah, I think he's the number 3 player on my board overall. I think that Armand Membu is a guy who there's teams that really love Will Campbell. There's teams that think he's going to be inside. I think Membu is a guy that I think a lot of guys love, but I still think is a little bit raw. Has played right side almost exclusively, and then a little bit interior. So that idea that can he go to the left side? We talk to Mark all the time. That can translate, but it's not always like riding a bike. So again, I think I will be surprised if Membu is there at 11. But again, if he were to be there, I think he's a guy the Niners. I think for me, he's a guy that one of the few, if not only guys that I'm comfortable trading up a little bit to get him. But we'll see. I don't think he'll be there, but I don't think it's impossible that he would be.
Okay. What about Shedeur Sanders? You think he's going to go in the top 10?
Ooh, I think it's interesting. There's all this smoke, and you listen to these shows like Todd McShay, and I'm no shade on him. Like he sells his shows like anybody else. And like a couple weeks ago, he's like, "Oh, I'm telling you, this Kevin Stefanski," and then it's like he's like, "I think he's going number 2," and then a couple weeks later, he's like, "Yeah, I've been talking to people that know this, and I think he's gonna." It's just like, okay, what changed in 3 days, right? Like, and it's a lot of these guys are, and Todd McShay, like super connected. But if all these guys were always getting things right like this, all these mock drafts would be perfect. And everybody knows that these guys get these mock drafts wrong almost all the time. So the things that you're hearing is secondhand, third hand, but it's also mixed with a lot of a good dose of smoke. I'm not going to begin. I could see Shedeur. I don't think he's going to Cleveland. I think Cleveland looks at the quarterback position as they're not going to fix it this year. I think they're going to go veteran. Would not be surprised at all to see them go try to get Kirk Cousins out of Atlanta. And then try to figure out that quarterback situation down the road. And I think they're going to be in a position where you're going to get 2 of the best, my top 2 players on the board in no particular order, Carter and Hunter. You go there. And I think after that, that's when it's going to get interesting. So some people think he's going to slip to the bottom of the first. I think he's going top 10. I think he's going top 10.
I do too. What about Ashton Genty? You think he goes in the top 10?
I don't think he should. I think Ashton Genty's a really good player. I'd be happy to have him be a running back on my favorite team, the Niners, right? I would not want to draft him at 11 if I were as a 49ers fan, if he were available. And I think that there's been some real smoke lately about Amarian Hampton, who I like too, but it's such a deep running back class. And look, I'm not going to throw shade at Ashton Genty. That's like I'm going to get pilloried on the TL for doing that. But I think he's a good player. I'm just not like, I'm not head over heels about him. I'm not a team. If I'm a GM, I'm just not addressing that in the top 10. I'm not addressing running back because I don't think he's a Saquon Barkley, CMC. I don't even really think he's in that Jahmyr Gibbs, type of tier. Like, I don't think that's a definitive thing. And if you're not that, then you're just, you're not worth the top 10 pick. So I think he's going to be close to that range. And maybe a team like the Jaguars, maybe the team like the Raiders, maybe the team like the Saints for whatever reason, the Bears. But I think Genty could be also a guy that potentially there's a team, if he starts slipping, might be able to move up in a really affordable trade because it won't take a lot to move up a couple spots in the bottom of the top 10.
Yeah, I tend to agree with this. Okay, and then the last two I have, and I think that there's other possibilities here, but Will Campbell.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about Will Campbell is it seems like from what I've been told by guys I trust, and again, we all talk to people, that there are a couple teams that really like him, but if they like somebody more and they end up going with him, there are other teams in the top 10 that do not see him as a tackle for sure. Like there are, this idea that at his people talk about it's like, oh, you never talk about arm length. He's just a good football player. And he's like, yeah, when I was at LSU, I was like, but that's exactly what you should be saying. But again, LSU is not the NFL, and there just is not that much of a track record of a guy with his arm length and wingspan having success on the edge. And I think he can be a very good guard.
I do
but
too, yeah.
but that's I think there are I know that there are teams that look at him as an interior player, and when you're getting in that zone, I think Will Campbell is a guy that could go in the top 5, and he could slip past number 10.
Yeah, I think so too. It's funny because I think a lot of people talk about Shedeur Sanders. I could see a scenario where Will Campbell's the one that falls. Okay, last one. Jalen Walker. You're muted again.
I have all these quibbles with players, and sometimes, but it doesn't mean I don't think they're a good player. So I've looked at Jalen Walker, but I'm not that interested in taking him. It's weird. Like I don't have him off my board as a grade, but as if I'm a GM for the 49ers, that's what we're doing tonight. I think there could be some other teams that would absolutely jump at his enticing skill set. He's also, this is a guy that's like, he's great on the mic, right? Talk about wrestling, guys that are great on the mic who can do a promo, sell a promo, right? He's a guy that's going to do that. He has that kind of Fred Warner type of personality. He's just the dude that you can market very, very easily. He's a dude that's going to be, in the locker room. For me, I don't want to just go exclusively on that, and I worry about his tweener size. I do think there's a team. I think Carolina is about a good spot for him. He might even go higher than that. But I also think he can be in range there. But yeah, I think he's a player that probably goes top 10.
All right. Okay. Before we reveal our picks, you can go ahead and make yours. I'll read these off real quick. Dave says, what a hopeful time of the year, but Lyle F's it up. All right. And then Kent wants to know, I wonder how much CNC would net at this point. I don't think a lot. I mean, if they traded CMC, I wouldn't expect more than like a fourth in return, personally.
Yeah, I think CMC is, look, everybody's acting like they know what CMC is going to be. Peak 2023 and CMC is not coming back. I hope he can be healthy. It is absolutely not impossible for him to be healthy. But you just don't know. And with that Achilles tendonitis, it's the odds of him getting through a season healthy is becoming slimmer and slimmer as the years go on. I could see you getting a third, but at this point, I would argue that if that's all you're getting, and the 49ers track record in the third hasn't exactly been great, it's like if they are really trying to win now to an extent, like I don't know if it's even worth it.
Yeah, at 29 years old, coming off of injury at his price, I don't know. Okay, I am going to show you who I took.
Yep.
I took Mykel Williams with my 11th overall pick. I will say I had Cam Ward, Ashton Genty, Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, Will Johnson. Will Johnson went high. Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Tet McMillan, Shedeur Sanders, and Membu went right before I picked. And I went with Mykel Williams out of Georgia. I know that you like Mykel Williams as well. I just love that he was able to play through some potential injuries last year. I love his age. I just think that, like, I look at Mykel Williams and I think that there is a possibility that if the 49ers took him, they would be disappointed after year one. Like, fans would be a little disappointed maybe out of the production. But I think year 2 and forward, he would absolutely hit his stride and crush it. and then people would be like, oh, dang, we really wrote this kid off way too early. Mykel Williams, for me, I think in a draft where there's a lot of edges, but I don't think there's a clear like number one outside of Abdul Carter. It's like after that, you can make an argument for a bunch of different guys. I like Pierce, but I don't know that Pierce fits what the 49ers are going to try to do on a snap in and snap out basis. So I went with Mykel Williams. So do you have your are you clicked on my picks there so that I can pull up your
I have, yeah, you can click on my picks. Yep.
All right.
And so you can
went.
I went Armand
you
Membu.
click my picks.
Yeah, I'll click on. Yeah.
Oh, Membu was there. You lucky dog.
So I thought about refreshing because I didn't know if it's possible that I do want you to look at these draft results here. So if you look at these draft results as I'm scrolling up, so he starts off with chalk, right? Campbell. Now, Will Campbell went high, but it evened out. So this idea that Will Campbell's not going at 2. But if you look at these other players, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Jalen Walker, Shedeur Sanders going top 10. If that happened, Shamar Stewart, or it could have been a guy like Mykel, right? Mason Graham and Ashton Genty. Then all of a sudden, you're looking at that. I do think that's a possibility that the Bears addressed. And so I think this is a really good kind of thought process here that this did happen for one of us, because I believe that it's puts us in a situation to say, hey, if this did happen, how is this going to impact the rest of the way that I would decide in the draft? Okay. I know that, the Niners love Membu. I think it's going to be one of those things where if he were there, I actually do think it's not impossible that he goes there. We've seen the top 10 that went happen, even though Will Campbell went at number 2. I think Will Campbell going top 10 is absolutely a very distinct and likely possibility. And so if that goes down, there are a lot of teams that love Shamar Stewart. There are a lot of teams that love Mykel. I love Mykel Williams. Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart. I said there's 7 players right now that I would be happy with at 11 if they're available. And it's Armand Membu is the only offensive lineman. I've got James, in no particular order, Shamar Stewart, James Pierce, and Mykel Williams, Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson, and Walter Nolan, right? Those are guys that I'm considering at 11. And even if some of those guys are there, depending, if I get a trade offer, I might still trade back. If none of those guys are there, I'm definitely looking to trade back. And that doesn't mean the other players that I don't like those other players. But Armand Membu, to me, he's the number 3 player on my board. He, after Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, he is, to me, a no-brainer, a plug and play, where even if you want to put him in at right tackle now, you can put him in at guard. For now, Trent Williams, look, guys, Trent Williams isn't going to be here forever. We don't know. I think the Niners like McKivitz more than a lot of people think, but McKivitz is also going to be expensive. Jalen Moore just got money to be a starter for the Chiefs. So next year comes around, it's going to be more for McKivitz, and they might be replacing 2 tackles in 2026. So to me, if they don't come away early with somebody who could end up being a tackle, they didn't do anything in free agency. They don't have a swing option for the most part. They're going to be having to address it twice next year, and potentially that's a dangerous place to be. So for me, this is very fortuitous, and I think that they would be doing cartwheels if this happened.
Yeah, I would be doing cartwheels. I think you already won the mock just because of that.
No.
But give me your top 3 that you would be fine with at 11, not name Membu. I think we both have Membu number 1. Give me your order of guys that you would like to take there.
Okay, so I just rattled off the 6. So if I had to whittle from the edges, I had Mykel Williams, James Pierce, Shamar Stewart, and then I had Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron, and I had Walter Nolan. And I'm still a little bit like, I hear people in my ear that I trust that like, hey, well, there's nothing to worry about Walter Nolan. I hear from other people, it's like, yeah, there's just like these maturity issues, and you're like, not everybody's got to be a Boy Scout, right? So for those guys, if I really had to break it down, I'd probably go Mykel Williams. Honestly, I'd probably go Mykel Williams, James Pierce, and then that third spot's really tough for me. Shamar Stewart's really, really, really been growing on me lately. I think he's a much better player, just like Mykel Williams. 2 guys that can defend the run, weren't asked to pin their ears back a lot, asked to do a lot more in filling gaps in their at A&M and at Georgia, respectively. and Michael Williams playing through an injury. Shamar Stewart played at a heavier weight. I think he'll probably be in between where he was at the combine of the 290-ish or 280 some that he was with A&M. But these guys just need to be allowed to do what they do. They're going to get coaching. They're both Michael Williams, super high character. Shamar Stewart's a fun guy. A little more that confident, kind of like brash kind of dude, but the good guy in the locker room. I don't think you can lose there. And the ceilings for both of those guys are incredibly high, and their floors are a lot higher than people think. So I would just say those two for sure. And then James Pierce. James Pearson there is a guy that I really love, but I think there's a lot of teams that are shying off of him with some of those reports. And when you're making a pick like that, you gotta get it right. And I guess I can understand if they get more info than I do.
Yeah, I like Michael Williams, Will Johnson, Walter Nolan, and then Jahdae Barron is like my honorable mention. I love Jahdae Barron. Give me 3 names that you wouldn't be excited to take at 11.
Ooh. Well, yeah, I mean that list is. I mean, yeah, based on who is available or just in general, I would say Will Campbell.
Well, guys that you think could possibly be available. Like, sure. Obviously, you're not going to say Cam Ward or Shador. You know what I mean? No, like with quarterbacks, whatever. But
yeah, okay, yeah. Tyler Warren, a guy who is not even the number 1 tight end on my board. And again, I think Tyler Warren is going to be a guy that just because he doesn't have the record-breaking juice of the combine and the things like that. Like, look, he can play in the NFL. I don't want to be the guy that says Tyler Warren can't play. I think Tyler Warren's a good player. I just think that Tyler Warren also being a little bit inflated based on how Penn State used him so often. Kotelnicki got way too gadgety. Won't let Drew Aller play quarterback. Brings in I can't even remember the guy who went to the transfer portal, the other quarterback who's gadgety. He's taking snaps. He's doing wildcat. I know he's got great size. That's the thing about Warren that I do love, and that does help mitigate that lack of true like field stretching juice. But in the NFL, asked to play that kind of Debo role, Debo was never mistaken for Xavier Worthy in speed, but Debo had acceleration, man. When he had the ball in his hand, he's moving. Tyler Warren ain't going to be that dude. And I just worry that he's kind of like this jack of all trades. And if I'm asking the guy to actually be in line and like be a tight end, and Colson Loveland's a better player to me. There's Mason Taylor, I think, has a chance to be as good of a player as Tyler Warren in the NFL as a tight end. I love Mason Taylor out of LSU. So Tyler Warren for me, that's way too rare. I wouldn't draft Tyler Warren in the first round. I'm not saying he's not a first round caliber player at all. I personally would not be interested. So that's one. Ashton Jeanty, I guess that's the easy one. I am not. I love the running back class. I wouldn't be drafting any running back in the top half of the draft in the first round. And I think the other guy is Will Campbell. I like Will Campbell. I'd be comfortable if say, hey, you're 11, you get a guard. I mean, guard's important. You're going up against DTs that have incredible value. I just really don't think he's an outside tackle. And maybe I'll add one that I think I would say instead of him is Kelvin Banks. And that's going to disappoint our guy, Marco. Kelvin Banks is a guy who I think would be a very good guard of the NFL. I feel he gets ahead of his out over his skis way too much, lunges way too much. You find him in certain situations where he sees speed on the edge. Yeah, he played for a team where you had a quarterback that had a long time to throw, or shorter time to throw. Excuse me. There's just ways in which you see it on his tape and you see him going. He's a good player, but I worry that what he'd been touted as an athlete, I don't necessarily see on the field. And to me, the degrees between him and Membu, it's just, I would say night and day, but there's multiple degrees that separate them for me in my rankings, in my gradings. And so, yeah, I would say Banks, Jeanty, Campbell, and Warren are my guys.
We have literally the same list outside of, I didn't put Jeanty on there. I put Derek Harmon on there. And you know that I'm an Oregon Duck guy. So it's hard for me to put an Oregon Duck on my list. When this whole process first started, I remember Marco had asked, hey, what do you think of Derek Harmon? And I said, I like Derek Harmon. I would be fine with him at 43 is what I said. And somehow, some way, now it's crept up to the possibility that he could go as high as 11. I would be disappointed with Derek Harmon at 11. I would. And I like Derek Harmon. Obviously, I'm an Oregon Duck. It's not that I think he's a bad player or would be a bad player. I just think that that's an overvalue. And all of these guys, I think all of these guys on the list that you said and I said, I think they can all be good players. But, when I look at Campbell and I look at Banks, I think they're both guards. And I think taking a guard at 11 is a bit rich when there are other tackles potentially available. And just other players that are playing a more important position. So I agree with you. I had Tyler Warren, I had Derek Harmon, and then I had the Campbell Banks combo, just like you did. So
love it.
All right, go ahead and make your second pick, and then before you make it, just note maybe who you were going between, so we can discuss that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then let me know when you've went ahead and made that second pick.
All right. Oh boy.
I know.
I'm going to be good at it. Let's see here. All right. I'm going to mix it up here for some people. I think, well, maybe I won't. I think I will be. Yeah, I'm going to lock this in. I'm not going to think of it too hard. All right. Yep.
All right. I will tell you, I was going between two defensive tackles. Kenneth Grant did fall to me, so I was very, very close to taking him. But this is a guy that we were talking about a little bit earlier in our chat, and a guy that you've warmed up to an awful lot, a guy who I've liked the whole process, and that is Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. I think I just think he's just a really good player. I think he can do it all. And I think he's the exact, as much as I like Kenneth Grant and I like his body type, I don't know that the 49ers are ever going to draft a guy like him or Deion Walker. I think that as big as they would go, or the type of body that they would go, would be a Tyleik Williams type. And I just think that he's an all-around great player. So for me, I chose him over Grant.
Yep.
Go ahead and hit on your my picks on your page, and then I'll pull up.
Yeah. Oh, I got it on the draft results, so you can kind of see. I picked Kenneth Grant, and I'm going to go to my picks here, so you can see that.
Oh, you picked Kenneth Grant. Okay, that's funny. We were this close. Yeah.
So you saw that Tyleik Williams was right before that, and I would have absolutely taken Tyleik Williams at number 43 if he would have been there. I like Tyleik Williams, but I think Kenneth Grant, and I think it's real. I don't think it's unrealistic that Kenneth Grant falls there at all.
I don't know.
I think what I love about Kenneth Grant, you got great run defender. It is very true that wherever you get your pass rush, whether it's for the interior or the edge, matters, right? Interior pass rush matters, could be just as much, right, as on the edge, as long as you're getting home, collapsing the pocket. In a lot of ways, it kind of makes life even more difficult for the quarterback, pushes him outside, it pushes him into the edge a little bit more, right? That being said, I think Kenneth Grant is a freak. His testing numbers were a little bit off somewhere, but he has absolutely legitimate testing from every measure. He was one of Feldman Freak's like top 10 players. The dude is an absolute beast. He is a guy that the Niners, we need run defense, right? They need it in spades. So I was hesitant. I saw a couple of players that I was going to mix it up with. I saw my guy. I love Azaria Thomas from Florida State. I think cornerback is a lot bigger need. Azaria Thomas didn't light it up in the 40, but he's a guy that was going to be. I think he might get into the end of the first round. I think people might be surprised. Renardo Green's teammate, lockdown press corner, super long, not great top end speed, but can recover really well with his length. And I was looking at Jalen Knoll, wide receiver out of Iowa State, who's really right at the top of my wide receiver rankings, him and Jalen Royals. And then and then Kenneth Grant. So to me, it was I didn't want to get cute. I had Kenneth Grant's very high on my board. I love Knoll. I love Jalen Knoll. I love Azaria Thomas. He's like probably my number one, like my guy in the entire draft. Yeah. But I will.
You've been talking about him forever. Yeah, What's crazy is you talked about the one guy from last year's draft process that I remember you just being all over early on was Renardo Green.
Yep.
And you've said that and now Thomas, his ex-teammate, is a guy that you absolutely love as well.
Yep.
And you've said that you think Thomas is a better prospect than Green. That doesn't mean he's going to be a better player, but you actually think he might be a better prospect. Is that right? Or did I get that wrong?
Yeah, I do. I do. But I also think that in a lot of ways, I think I was equally as excited. I think they're a little bit different player, but they both excel in press. Obviously, Thomas has a little bit more prototypical size. But again, you're getting locker room leader, super high character dude, super well-grounded dude, like has pedigree in the NFL as with cousins and siblings and things like that. And I would be excited at 43. I think that Niners fans would be looking at that. We need to address DT. They do have 11 picks. So I thought about not going DT here because I'd like to see 49ers fans might riot. But as a guy, it's like there's some really great depth in that third round. And part of myself, I'm kicking myself a little bit, but Kenneth Grant is too good here. I have Kenneth Grant ranked above Zaria Thomas. Kenneth Grant's not on my guy list because I only do 2 teams. I went to Tyleik Williams, and I can't even, my brain's not working. But I'm excited for Kenneth Grant. But Jalen Noel is now, these mock draft machines are starting to get higher with consensus. Jalen Royals went at 38 on my mock, right? Jalen Noel is going to go a lot higher than people think. I think he's the better receiver than his taller teammate, Jaden Higgins. He's a dude that can absolutely do it all. He was averaging 12.8 yards a catch, average depth of target from 70% share in the slot this year, but he was going 30% outside, right? And I think a lot of that is that showing what he does on the outside, his catch, what he does at the catch point, what he does to get out of his releases, his route running, his toughness, his hands, his confidence. He's 5'10", 5'11", he's 5'11", and that's tall enough. Like we've seen guys that can operate like him and have success. I would be ecstatic with Noel at 43, and I think it's a bigger need than people think. Even if they have
Jalen Noel went at 42 in my draft. You know what's crazy about this is Jalen Noel is another guy that you've been talking about for months. And I remember when mock drafts first started, he was like a 5th round guy.
Oh yeah.
And now he's going number 42 in my mock. That is crazy. And again, another reason why, if you have social media, you have Twitter, I would follow David and I would follow Marco, because these are the types of players you will hear about months before they are popular. I promise you, this happens every single year. Every year this happens with these guys.
And I'm trying to pat myself on the back on that one. But yeah, I've been talking about Jalen. Now, granted, I'm a big Iowa State fan. I'm also a big Minnesota fan. So Ariante Ursary, a player I really like, he started out a lot higher on my board. I still like Ariante Ursary. He's on my guy's second team board. But I wouldn't take a first round pick on him. I had said that earlier in the season. I said, no, I've rewatched the film. I've looked back on things that there's little concerns that I have about how well he's going to maintain on the edge. I wouldn't be mad at him in the second round at all. But I'd be realistic. I give myself a chance to change my mind. Jalen Noel, I mean, I want to tell people, if you guys haven't watched Jalen Noel play, a lot of people talk about Jaden Higgins because he's just got more of that prototypical size. Noel has that like unfair comp here, but like there's like this combo of like Antonio Brown and oh my goodness, and Steve Smith. Like there's this like weird, like he can run routes, but he's toughness, he can yards after the catch. Like he plays bigger than he is. He's just utmost confidence. He's just a guy, if he ever has a drop, he never lets it get to his head. He's right back there making a big play, the very next play. He just has that type of, that throw me the ball type of guy, but he's also team captain, excellent in the locker room. Just a dude that's rising for a reason. And I'm not going to be surprised when he goes top half of the second.
I think it's just crazy. Like I said, that you were talking about this guy so long ago, and now he's just there. Super, super impressive. And in my draft, he did go above Higgins as well, which is absolutely crazy. That would have been asinine to say a month ago, but here we are. So let me ask you this. If Tyleik would have been there and you were choosing, much like I was, between Grant and Tyleik, who would you have taken?
Tyleik. I saw somebody bookmarked my tweet that I said, like, I think 2 or 3 months ago, like, hey, Tyleik Williams is going to be a first round pick this year. And they're going to bookmark it. So as soon as he goes like 33. Like, what do you know? It's like, I get it. Like, right. People make decisions. In my mind, Tyreek Williams is a first round caliber player. He's making 30 visits right now with teams that are right there at the end of the first round, mid to late to late first round. Look, it turns out the thing at the 40 where he fell down wasn't a big deal. I think he kind of overreacted. He didn't tear any hamstring or anything like that. This dude is an elite run stuffer, but he also can get into the pocket. He's incredibly disruptive. He's incredibly strong. He's incredibly athletic. When he was, in the college football playoffs this year, he was just an absolute force in every single game. In the drills, I know people like at the combine, absolute MVP of the drills. His fluidity, his mobility, his natural way that his movement. It was one, and then there was no 1B. Like to me, I'd almost be. I know Marco talked like I would not freak out to take Tyler. I don't have him as a guy I'd consider at 11. But if you could get a little bit of a trade back, I'd have no problem with drafting Tyreek Williams in the middle of the late first round at all.
Yeah, I I wouldn't either. I think he's an absolute stud. And it's crazy because like I'll have opinions on guys, but when I throw them in the chat and then you guys are kind of cool on them, like, oh man, maybe I got to go back and rewatch them. It really does make me think. And that's what happened with them. And I remember rewatching, I'm like, what am I missing? Like, I love this guy. And so over the last like week, you've both been like separately. By the way, I went back and rewatched Tyreek Williams, and he's starting to come around on him. Like, oh, thank God, because I thought I was going crazy over here talking about this guy.
No, I get.
That's funny. All right, let's start looking at pick number 3 here. I've got Dave coming in with a super chat. He says, "I love your mocks, but what are the odds that we get needs?" The needs are there. I mean, the players at the positions of need that the 49ers have are certainly there. So for me, I think that it's very, very possible, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see what the 49ers end up doing. Oh man, this one's tough for me. Tough.
I know.
Oh man. Jeez. I don't know what to do here, David. I don't know what to do here.
And this is kind of where you're looking at things where you're like, oh yeah, like I don't know if I'm going to get the guy that I wanted. And you think about previous picks, about how you hit positionally. It's one of those things you say it's okay to double up on a position, or it's okay to wait. My whole thing is if you're close, you really got to go with a better player. If that better player is like several degrees more, like it's not just like neck and neck. It's like, hey, I got this guy 10 up higher on my board for a reason. I'm not going to quibble with position, but yeah.
Gosh, this one is super, super tough for me because there's just a lot of players that I like at this spot. But I think the clear best player is, oh my gosh. Have you already made your pick?
I was waiting for you because I'm thinking myself. I'm waffling myself. So, there's a couple of guys that are staring me down right now, and it's a little bit. Yeah, it gets to that point of the draft. There's a lot of guys I like, but I think these mock machines are getting more refined. Like we just saw Jalen Noel is now at 49. Like it used to be that I could get Jalen Noel at 75 and 100. So I think this PFN's doing a good job of like kind of recalibrating. Like whoa, like maybe I think it's actually, knock on wood, a little more accurate than it has been in the years past.
Yeah, it definitely is. And see, here's the other thing too. Like when you get to this spot and you don't have another pick, for another 25 picks.
Yep.
If there's a guy that you really, really love,
I know,
like it may be considered a reach according to the mock, but if you think there's a chance that he's taken in the next 25 or so picks, you might want to take that guy because he may not be there. And so that's kind of where my thought process is right now. Is that the route that I want to take? Gosh, man.
Yeah, I've made my pick.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll make mine as well. grudgingly here. Okay. I'll my pick's in as well. Pick's in as well. I'm not as confident in it as I wanted to be, but why don't you tell me who you picked, and then why don't you tell me?
So
he was one of the guys I was going between.
So here's the thing. I've been talking about it. If you follow me and you look on, if you follow me on Twitter or on X, CJ West is a guy who I said unequivocally is a top 100 prospect. PFN has him at 112. I know that there are different people that look at him different ways. He's a little bit. The only way that CJ West is undersized is by height. This man, again, is a guy who can get it done in the interior, a great run stopper, but can also hold up. I mean, I'm sorry, man, if you have Kenneth Grant and CJ West, like CJ West is my guy, my first team, my guy. That doesn't mean that I think that he's the best defensive tackle in the ground, but he is my guy. I'm gonna stand on the table for. And when I saw that he's still available, and I didn't know going in, I didn't look at I just went into this cold. I haven't been on a PFN thing for a couple of days, and they've definitely updated it today. West is still at 112, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, I got pick 100. Yeah, I got pick 113, but I'm not going to be beholden to PFN. I want to do my board. I want to go with what I'm doing. And to me, I'm like, I'm not going to gamble. I think he's that good of a player. He is somebody I will absolutely. We're on live on Friday night. If he's there at 75 and they take him, I am going to run around the living room. Like he is that good of a player. Only 6'1", not like the prototypical length, but dude, the size and the strength, the athleticism, he's a freak. He's just an absolute freak. And if you told me I could walk away with Membu, Grant, and West in the first 3 picks, the rest of the draft is pretty much gravy for me. And I know that I'm going to still get some good players.
So CJ West was the guy that I didn't take and was back and forth on. You know who's another player we're talking about crushes that I really liked early in this process that has just flown up these boards as well as of late is Dylan Fairchild. I love Dylan Fairchild. Absolutely love him. He's not my favorite guard. I would say he would make like the all my guys team number 2, but Dylan Fairchild, when this thing first started, man, you could get him super late, and now he went pretty early in this mock draft, at least. I don't know about yours, but okay. I ended up with Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins is a guy that I've liked pretty early on in this process as well. And for me, I think if you get him and Tyleik Williams and you pair them next to each other, good luck running the football, which is exactly what the 49ers need. I mean, they just need 2 guys that can clog things up, be 2 gap eaters, but also I think both of them are better pass rushers than maybe they get credit for. And so I don't know that it's the perfect pairing. Like for me, if I could somehow pair Walter Nolan with Tyleik Williams, I think that would be the best pairing that I could think of. But I'm not going to get those guys in round 2 and 3 likely. So the fact that I got Tyleik, but Alfred Collins was also there, that's who I had to go with there. So, but
Love
CJ West was also. It was this close. I was back and forth. So there we go.
Love it.
Hold on a second. So we've got Wilson says, just joined. Sorry. Do y'all like Millam, West Virginia, round 2 or 3? What do you think about him?
Yeah, I think he's a guard, and I think he can be a good NFL player. I'm not. Yeah. I didn't look at him as closely because what I saw immediately. I watched him closely at first, but he's a guy that I'd be happy with. I'm not big on him. I don't really completely in love with his profile where he's going to fit in with the 49ers, but I think that I think he could end up being a really good player. Not a guy that I'm excited about, not a guy that I'm looking to. And the fact that I addressed offensive line early, the guy I love Donovan Jackson, who can also play inside out. Some of the guys that I like Jackson Slater from Sac State. There's a couple of guys interior, but I was happy to get Membu because I didn't really want to deal with looking at that later in the draft for a guy of the caliber of Millam. But that's a good question.
I like him as well, but not enough that I've ever mocked him to the 49ers. So if that's any indication, I'm gonna ask you about a prospect real quick. Actually, let's
Yeah.
Shay says, hey, it's my two favorite senior citizens. Appreciate you, Shay. Hey, be easy on us, man. That's
Dude.
we got the
Hey,
old folks home that we're at today. I
no
appreciate you.
kidding. No kidding.
Gosh, man. Okay. Xavier Restrepo. I haven't heard you talk about him, you or Marco, but he's quickly becoming one of my favorite players in this draft. I think he's an absolute stud. I know I don't like him as much as you. I would say that you like Jalen Knoll, but he's my favorite wide receiver in the draft. Obviously, very early on, I was a Tez Johnson guy, Oregon Duck. That's obvious. But Restrepo is he has become my guy at wide receiver that I just absolutely have fallen in love with. What are your thoughts on him?
So this is what I love, because everybody always says we're dittoheads. I'm not big on Restrepo myself, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, because I love when we get a chance to maybe disagree, but I'm not going to sit here and trash the kid. I do think, like, when I'm looking at a receiver at this point or any point, I'm looking where he fits in with the Niners, but I also think it's bad to draft for what your current iteration of your roster is too, where you're not looking like saying, hey, people come, people go. Attrition is real, right? So the thing with Restrepo, to me, obviously, I'm not looking at obviously 40 times fast. I think he can play in a phone booth. He's a tough kid. He can make those plays. I just worry about how that really, really plays out when you're asked to do more than just be a possession receiver in the NFL. I think you're going to see a guy who I think could be a little bit more in that almost like Jawan Jennings type of guy, which is incredibly valuable. And so if you would have said, hey, I got Jawan Jennings in the 7th round, and now, but you look at all the 3rd round picks the 49ers lit on fire over the last 8 years, and you would have said you would have got him in the 3rd with the production that he's been able to fill in, I'd be happy with that. And I think that's kind of where Restrepo is going to be. And that's not a bad thing. But for me at that point, I'm looking for maybe a little bit more athletic upside, a little bit more utility. But I've got, you're not the only one I know that I trust that really, really, really likes Restrepo a lot. And I think there's a lot of people in the league that love him too.
Yeah. And I don't know that I would love him for the 49ers, right? He's just a prospect that I really like. I don't know how he would fit in for the 49ers, but I look at him and I could see him potentially being a Cooper Kupp type. I could, but I could also see him being who was buddy for the Raiders, the short little white guy that just worked his way out of the league after like 2 or 3 seasons.
Clemson white boy with a receding hairline. My goodness, what was wrong with us? We're football junkies.
I don't remember this guy.
He's not memorable. In fact, there was a guy that tweeted out, it's like where somebody's like, yeah, he retired. He's like, oh, that's news to me. I was making a comeback. No, you weren't.
But anyways, I think everybody knows who we're talking about. So, I could see a scenario where he ends up being Renfro. Thank you.
Renfro.
Tom threw it in. Thank you, Tom. I knew somebody would have our back. Tom's lurking in the chat. I should have known. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Yes, I could see him being Renfro too, which is, that's a obviously a big range of possibilities I gave you. But I like the Cooper Kupp possibility as well. So, a little bit smaller, but I think he's a guy that if he has multiple games in a season where he catches 10 plus passes, I wouldn't be shocked,
No, I get it.
Okay, let's go on to pick 4 or pick 100 rather.
I'm ready.
In our drafts, I got Cam Scattaboo just staring me in the face here. Just spoiler alert. I wouldn't take Cam Scattaboo here.
Hey, easy. We need combo boys.
Sorry. Let's. Gosh, man, this one's gonna be tough. Man, this is jeez. It's getting tough out here. Let me tell you.
Well, I am ready to go. So while you're picking, you can be, and if you want to go to me, I'm ready.
No, I don't want to go to you yet because I don't want to be swayed, right? I want to take a separate pick just to make sure. So, but I will tell you, since you've made your pick, I will tell you the guys that I'm looking at. And we can discuss that a little bit if you want. So pick 100. And at least one of these guys is not going to make it to 113. And this is why I'm looking at these three. So Smile Munden.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Damian Martinez.
Yep.
And I'm looking at Anthony Belton. And I know one of them pretty much probably for sure is not going to make it to the next pick. And so I've got to decide which one do I have to have. If they were gone, that I would just be like, oh man, I really missed out on this one. And what I'm deciding between right now is the other prospects at their position. Would I be okay with taking one of those guys if, in fact, my guy was gone? So because of that, I think you just look over the running backs one more time. Okay. I'm going to go Damian Martinez. Because I don't like the other running backs in that area as much as I do him. Like, not even Dylan Sampson I is the one guy that I would probably have been okay with, but I like Damian Martinez a lot. And I'm starting to see that he's starting to climb up a lot of boards as well. I think the 49ers are probably going to go. I wouldn't be shocked if they go running back in their first 4 picks either. I think a lot of people might be upset about that, but there's going to be a run at some point in this draft where it's like 5 running backs go in 12 picks or something crazy like that. And the 49ers can either be in front of that or behind that. And I think if they go running back in the top 100, I wouldn't be shocked. So for me, Damian Martinez is a guy who I liked a lot when he was at Oregon State. He obviously went to Miami and continued everything. I don't think when you look at Damian Martinez, he may not fly off the board as far as his athleticism goes, but he's reliable. I think he's a good blocker. I think he's got good hands, and he just runs with anger. And I think that that's something that the 49ers might miss this year without Mason. And so when I look at Damian Martinez, I would love to have him be a 49er. I know that Marco loves him as well. So yeah, I went with Damian Martinez. I am curious to see who you went with here.
Yeah.
Oh,
I had my guy
Smile. All right.
I poker faced it because I had him picked already. When I heard you say Smile Mondon, I was like, okay, maybe we're going to actually get where we line up with the same guy. But you and you went with Marco's cousin, Damian Martinez.
Right.
Allegedly not related. He told me that Marco. Okay, you heard it here first. Marco Martinez wants Damian Martinez so bad because he wants to cop that jersey, yesterday. Okay, so like that's so when that happens, if Marco actually gets away from his 4-day birthday celebration for his wife, his lovely wife, who deserves 4 days to be celebrated because she's married to that man. Okay, that he can't join his brothers for a mock draft season, even though he's texting me 18 times a day, hour. Okay, about the 100th ranked like backup, fullback for Wayne State. Like not Wayne Breezy State, but Wayne State. Okay, so anyway, Damian Martinez, tell me more about him. What do you love so much about this guy? I guess you already did, but like Smile Mondon to me is the best coverage linebacker in the draft, and he's got a lot of juice. He's exactly what the Niners look for. Look, D Winters. This is how bad that draft was when D Winters came out, where D Winters and Ronnie Bell were my 2 favorite picks in the draft. Now, Ronnie Bell was a 7th round pick, and Ronnie Bell hit pay dirt a couple times. Like Ronnie Bell's still in the league with the Lions as a 7th round pick. You could do worse, right? But D Winters, I was excited for, but we're entering into year 3. We still don't really quite know. People said, "Hey, is PFF great?" On a small sample size, and PFF, we'll talk about that a little bit. I just think Mondon comes in, and whether or not this is at 100 where you already get to me 3 starter caliber players, this is where you could be a pretty quick starter. I think he's a better player than Winters. I'm not saying it's right away, but I think it's not a luxury pick, but a pick that you said, hey, this is pick 100. We're almost in the 4th round. Let's get a guy that we believe in. Let's get a guy that we can be in that more Fred Warner mold. And we can also get in near the line of scrimmage too from time to time as well. Great athleticism, great character, great locker room leader. Checks every box for me. And he's my favorite linebacker in the draft.
Kenny with an elite comment here. He says, I like this guess, but his black shelf messes with my OCD. How much would it cost me to have him move it 12 inches out of the picture? That's now super funny, man. Not going anywhere. Oh, it's going.
Yeah.
It's going.
No.
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
So I got a subluxated rib over here, and man, this thing's a lot heavier than I thought. I got a lot of books on here, and there's like, I might need to get my little get on the blocking sled over here. So yeah, no, I'm gonna bring that back because I like what the black. You don't like what is black not blend with the naughty pine back here? Is that your problem? Because I could use a little. What's the person's name that does all the feng shui? Marie. Come on now.
Dude, I wouldn't know. Why would I know that?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Okay.
You just thought I would know?
I don't know, man. I've seen your place. This
Hindi
guy lives
says
large.
Hindi says that Damian Martinez is Marco's Nepo prospect.
Oh, no doubt about it. Marco absolutely. The only reason he likes him is because he wants his jersey, and you can tell him I said that.
I gave you my breakdown of Damian Martinez. I do like these mock drafts because they also have write-ups of players. I'm going to read you what they said about Damian Martinez, and you let me know.
Okay.
Says Damian Martinez first showed up on 2025 NFL draft radar when he emerged as a consistent 1,000-yard runner at Oregon State in his first 2 seasons. In year 3, he joined Cam Ward in Miami, cracking 1,000 yards while averaging a career best 6.3 yards per carry. Mm-hmm. Martinez's resume as a receiving threat is still woefully barren, but he's truly one of the most complete volume running backs in the entire 2025 NFL draft class. It's 6 feet, 217 pounds. He assuredly looks the part, and he checks almost every box. Martinez is explosive and uber physical rolling downhill. And yet there's a compelling finesse and calculation to his game. He's a smooth footwork operator with spatial instincts, great diagnostic vision, and fluidity to set up cuts as well as crushing hits.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, could you just make it sound any better? I feel like they can make any pick sound great. It's just boom. If I would have taken him at 43 and read that, you'd have been like, damn, you got a player.
No, I agree. And I think Damian Martinez is a guy that he's really a guy that, as I'm reading and listening to more people start to get out of my zone, I'm just seeing him pop up and get a lot of respect and a lot of say, hey, might not have the quote unquote, I don't know if the 10-yard or what. This guy just makes things happen, and he's tough to bring down. And when you see these guys, that matters. And for a lot of these coaches that running backs, like, yeah, you want that juice, but at the end of the day, I want the guy that's going to be able to have a linebacker bounce off of him, and then not go to the sideline and have to recover for another series. So this is the kind of thing that I think Martinez is going to be a really good NFL player.
Yeah, I think so too. All right. Well, I know we're not going to have the same pick on this one. So why don't you start looking at your next pick?
Okay. Oh boy.
I will say this. I made a very good calculation in taking Damian Martinez because the other 2 guys that I was looking at also are still there at 113. So I'm happy about that. But now I've got another decision, which means I could also end up with Smile London on my team, much like you, but 13 picks later.
I'm ready to go when you are.
Okay. I went with Anthony Belton.
Okay.
You were able to get your left tackle with the first pick because Membu fell to you. I was not. I have mocked Anthony Belton so many times to the 49ers. When I look at him, I think he is the perfect eventual replacement as far as size, movement, everything available. I think he's the perfect replacement to Trent Williams when I factor in where he's going and the fact that he will be able to just sit a year and learn from Trent Williams. I think there are clearly better offensive tackle prospects, but those guys are going either round 1 or 2. And then after that, where Anthony Belton might go, which in this case, obviously, we're at pick 113, I think even 100, I would be fine with him. I just think him learning 1 year behind Trent Williams, and you add in everything that he has at his disposal with size, footwork, everything. I think he's the perfect guy to sit a year and just learn. So, what do you think of Anthony Belton? I know I've brought him up a lot of times. You stayed quiet on him. I get the feeling you're not a big fan of Anthony Belton.
No, I'm not against Anthony Belton at all. I think that it's one of those things for me, I'll be honest, where I was looking at me at tackle. I do think that you can find good value, and the 49ers have, whether you can say it's good or not. I mean, they went and traded for Trent Williams, who was a perennial All-Pro, but they've been, fitting in guys like, your Spencer Burford's, who, gets as a swing player, Jalen Moore, 5th rounder, right? Colton McKivitz, I think 5th rounder, right? Out of West Virginia. Might have been the 6th. I can't remember now at this point. I'm pretty sure it was the 5th. A gold helmet guy, Colton McKivitz. You can find these guys that can end up playing valuable games for you and being a starter. I think for Melton, I think he's Belton, excuse me. I think he's a really good player. I think this is a good spot for him. And I was kind of telling myself, I was more targeting in my draft and the way I was looking at things this year as like looking at OT at more of in that more premium range. And so I didn't invest as much time in Belton as you did, but I think he's a phenomenal value at this point.
All right, cool. Somebody has given us our answer, by the way, on the feng shui. Briscoe says
Marie Kondo. Yeah, there it is. I am married, but my wife would not know who she is, and she's the one that bought this shelf, and so she wouldn't change it anyway.
There you go. All right, let's. I'm gonna pull up your mock. Are you ready to reveal who you took?
I think I am. Let me see. I am. Yes.
Okay. Here we go. David Walker. I like it. Okay. So you got your edge. See, this is where things were a little bit different. And I think this is also interesting because you got your offensive tackle in round 1. Membu fell to you. I got my edge, and here we are at pick 113, getting the inverse of what we were unable to get in round 1, matching each other's draft in a interesting sort of manner. All right. Talk to me about David Walker.
And David Walker is not going to be a guy that's going to, he's, some people like him, some people don't. This is my first part of the draft where I might have made a mistake, not with Walker, because he was one of the 2 guys I was looking at. I think I was wanting to go cornerback. I was wanting to go Noel Williams from Cal. He's lower on this board, but he's way higher on mine. I jump at him here if I didn't go with Zaria Thomas in the 2nd, somewhere in there in the 4th. I just thought, no. David Walker is a guy who absolutely, the 6 foot and odd, I mean, short as, but boy, does this dude, I mean, power, speed, like the whole 9 yards. He does everything. KJ Wright seemed to love him at the Senior Bowl. Just give people fits left and right, like all the way through the drills, I don't care about the lower competition. When you turn on the tape, when you saw what he was doing one-on-one against guys that were going up against premier dudes that are in this draft, he was having success in spades. I just think he's a guy that, although he's undersized, that's why he falls to the 4th round. And when you bring him in waves, you can see what he can do. I think he's a player that can even play a little bit off ball. I think he's a player that can obviously line up and put his hand in the dirt. I think he's also a guy that, being that undersized, can go out a little bit more wide 9 and get a beat on the guy that Chris Kocurek likes to do. I think 113 to me, I thought about going Noel. I probably could have waited, but I've drafted him in the 3rd in mocks this year with Walker. A lot of guys are lower on him because of his size. I'm not, and I'm stoked for that.
I like it. I like it a lot. I was just looking at who went in my draft. We're about to be at pick 138. Smile made it to 136 and ended up being a Raven, which is sad. And it's a great fit for him, by the way. I think Smile Munden I think he is like their new Patrick Queen, basically. He can be that guy for them. Well, so I love that for them, but not for me. He almost made it to 138 for me. I almost got lucky.
And before you switched back, you could see that there was my draft results, and I was also looking at RJ Harvey, the running back out of UCF. DJ Giddens, I was even looking at, but I think it was just a little too early. I definitely wasn't going 175 for running back, and then 100. But then Giddens was gone, and then Harvey was my next guy. Harvey, Giddens, and Travion Henderson, my 3 favorite running backs in the draft. And so I definitely would have been a hard choice for me there between Harvey, and then Noel Williams. That was the other guy that I was looking at.
Oh, all right. I love it. Let's go back here. We'll start looking at pick 138.
And Noel Williams went 2 before my pick, and that and I knew I missed it. That's oh boy. Okay. Oh boy.
I took a calculated risk and missed. I missed. I've made my pick, but my next guy is gone, unfortunately, and I figured he probably would be.
Boy, this is getting tougher and tougher and tougher.
It is. It is tough. And the thing is that this is what I like about it is the drafts are always so different.
Yep.
To where guys that you are used to falling to you in certain spots sometimes don't. There have been drafts where I'm like, oh my God, I got everybody I wanted at the spot that I wanted. Then there are drafts where I literally got nobody. They all went right before I was about to pick. I'm like, how did I miss on all of the guys that I like? I didn't get a single one. But luckily here, I've had a nice little mix. I don't think it's a perfect draft by any means. There's some spots where I wish some players would have fallen that didn't, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah. No, this is the thing, man. You get to this point and you start to kind of be like, oof, I'm not seeing the guys that I might have been, big on. And that's, so. All right. I'm going to have to make an old decision here.
Starting to look at the next one here to see.
Oh, you got your pick? You got your
pick?
I've
got my pick. I've made my pick. Yeah. I've made my pick. I was between 2 guys, and unfortunately, much like the last time, the other guy I was choosing between was just picked again right before I was about to go on pick 147. So,
all right, I think I might have to lock this bad boy in. Let's see. Well, yeah. Alrighty, I got my pick.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and show yours here.
Okay.
If you want to pull it up, all right. Go ahead. Oh, safety. Okay, I like this. I like this a lot. All right, what made you take Sanker?
And Sanker's a guy who I haven't been just absolutely close on this year. I've started to watch him a little bit more this time. I like what this guy does, as I think he's got good size. He's only 6 foot tall, but he's got also big hands, nose for the ball, can make those plays, not afraid to come up and run support, but he's got the juice to him. He's as pro day. Now, pro days can be off and on, but it's like a legit, 4-5. I mean, it was 4-4. He's probably a 4-5 40. I'm good with that, right? Great, showed that explosiveness that I see on tape that matched his, 36 plus vertical, is almost 11 foot broad, getting away though from those like just, underwear Olympic stuff. He's just a guy that is tenacious, man. We got a guy like Malik Mustafa. Yeah, you got Tig Brown, but Tig Brown's been a disappointment. I'm going to be real with you. That safety room is weak, is pretty slim. I like Malik Mustafa a lot. I just think that Jonas Sanker is just one of these dudes that can be. He's just got an amazing amount of range. He's a great tackler. When he gets a beat on you, he's going to get you. He's absolutely a guy that is somebody that I'm very, very, very content with playing deep in a lot of different situations and having that range though to come up to the line of scrimmage. I just think I thought the value was really good for me here at 138. And cornerback is a position that I really want to address. But when I passed on Noble, and this is one of those things, whether these mocks are good, if I could go back in time, I probably do take Noah Williams from Cal over David Walker. And if I miss on David Walker, I'm fine with that. But at this point, I'm good. And I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. I think Jonas Sanker's a good player. And I do think safety is still a need. And I think, Tig Brown is just, he's not the athlete that Sanker is. And I think he's kind of finding a way to the bench.
Well, I will say this. We talk about how different mocks are falling. Jonas Sanker went 98 in my mock draft to the Miami Dolphins. So right. I would say that you got some great value there in taking Jonas Sanker for sure.
But there's not a lot of difference. There's not a lot of difference between those spots. Like teams are only drafting maybe once in that range. And they're at this point, you're just getting your guy.
I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. I went and got lucky. A player that we both like, a player that you've already mentioned, but Noah Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Noah Williams is there. So no brainer, right? I mean, I think we both like him. He can do a little bit of everything, but I think that I view him for sure as an outside corner. I look at his body type, and I think that that's exactly what the 49ers need. And so this is a position that I haven't been able to address yet in the draft, but I think it's one of those positions like as much as I like Smile Munden, Noah Williams to me might be more important to what the 49ers need. D Winters, the difference between D Winters and some of the other linebackers that they have versus what they have at corner after Green and Lenore, I trust the linebackers more. So somebody can come out of that linebacker group, I think, and actually start and be decent much more than I trust anything that they have at corner. So I do think that they need a starting corner, and I think that Noah Williams at pick 138 is an absolute steal. And I'd be fine with him even as high as pick 100. I think he's that good of a player. So for me, that's who I ended up going with there.
Oh, he's an excellent press man corner. He also, his ball skills, he led college football last year with seven picks. But if you see him, and it's not just these fluke things, like he's making plays on the ball. It's not just, and look, I've always said most interceptions in the league, particularly at safety, not at corner, obviously, it's quarterbacks, though, making bad decisions, right? And that's why, sometimes they can get a little bit overrated, but Noah Williams is a dude that can really do it. A little bit underside leg or arm length is a little bit off, whatever people could talk about. But I see same thing was talked about Renardo Green. Renardo Green and Noah Williams, very, very similar players. When I watch these guys, like they're like clones of each other, and both of them can be a little handsy, and that was the concern. But that's what you kind of get that a little bit. I thought Renardo did a great job this year, weaning himself off of that and making big plays. And I think Noel could be a very similar guy in the league.
Absolutely. All right, we are now at pick 147. Ooh, remember early on when we thought the 49ers were going to have 137 and 138? I wish that was still the case, but it's not. So here we go. Here we go. Oh man. It's getting tough, brother. It's getting tough.
Yep.
And here's the tough part. After 160, man, we got a big gap before we pick again. And that's so it's like the next two picks, we got to really go with guys that we absolutely love, even if it's a quote unquote reach, because we don't get to pick again for a while. So this is where things get really, really interesting.
Yep.
Really interesting.
I've got my pick.
Do you? Okay. Okay. Give me a second here. Give me a second. Kyle McCord's on the board, so I gotta say no to him. I do love me some Kyle McCord though. Okay. I am gonna go ahead and make my pick as well.
Yep.
And lock it in. There we go. Okay. I'll go first this time, and then
ready.
We'll go to you. I went with safety out of Alabama, Malachi Moore.
Okay.
Malachi Moore is exactly what the 49ers need. They need somebody who can truly play center field, be a single high safety, who's rangy, can make plays, and you can trust. And to me, Malachi Moore has exceptional instincts. He's exactly that. I think he's versatile as well, but that's exactly where I envision him, is free safety, roaming sideline to sideline. And I think to get a player at 147 that you believe can do that, it's impossible to say no to. And you know, just because you come out of the SEC in a big school doesn't mean you're going to be great, but he's played against high competition and he's showed out very, very well against that competition. So Malachi Moore at 147 is a player that I would absolutely love to welcome onto the 49ers.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great pick.
Okay, let's see who you went with. Oh, Josh Joyner just went draft. Ricky, oh, you got a receiver. This is a problem that I'm having, David. A lot of my drafts that I've ended up loving, a lot of people don't like as much because I'm not able to get a receiver. It seems like receiver for me is that position that I can't ever say yes to when I'm doing these mocks. But you were able to get one here. Ricky White out of UNLV. Talk to me about Ricky White and what you like about him.
He didn't test as well as they thought he would at the combine. Then his pro day ran a 4.5. I don't care about that. I know what he is on the field. His next gen GPS stuff, like that's what really matters when his ball's in his hands. You would never look at Ricky White and say that he doesn't have the ability to have requisite speed in the NFL. He shows it he showed it all the time. Regardless, he looked phenomenal against Noel Williams, of all people, one of my favorite corners at the Shrine Bowl. Was just both those guys, kind of like when Jalen Noel and Azaria Thomas went up against each other in the Senior Bowl. Like one-on-ones aren't real life, but it's still like as far as like when you don't have 10 other guys that are on each side of the ball. But I just look at Ricky White and route running instincts, just ability to separate just IQ, route savvy of what he's doing on the field. I think Kyle is really going to like him. Ricky White's been a my guy all year. I think I bumped him out because I had Jalen Noel up there and Jalen Royals, but Ricky White's one of my favorite guys in the draft. Lots of mixed opinions about him, of where he would be. To me, here at 147, I mean, this is I think we're in I don't know what round are we in now at 147? Is that?
I don't even know.
I think it's, let's see here. If I can get there.
Fourth? I think fourth.
We're on the fifth. It's the fifth. So yeah, it's really, so to me at this point, really I love this value for me. I had some guys that I was looking at. I was looking at some DTs that are actually still on the board for me. So we'll just I'm happy with this. I did not want to wait. It's like you said, after 160, we just got to wait to the 7th round. I waited on Noel Williams. He got drafted, right? I don't want to do that again, and I'm really happy with this pick. And there's deep. Like we really still. I mean, you've got Ricky Pearsall, you've got Brandon Ayuk, who I do think is coming back earlier than people think. You got Juwan Jennings, right? First and Juwan. But Cowing, like, we don't know. Like, Cowing, people talked a lot about Cowing before the draft last year, bro, and he was a healthy scratch almost all year long. Like, he could not find the field. And look, you can say whatever you want. People can quibble about Kyle, but when Kyle does that, there's a reason, right? And I know I've said that Kyle sometimes struggles to play players until he has to, but I don't think he's in any doghouse. I just don't think that I don't know if he's running at the precision that I think Kyle really needs in his system. And I'm hoping that he takes a leap, but I don't think Jacob Cowing is a guarantee to be on this roster. I think he will be. I really do. I'm 90% sure he will, but I don't think he's not stopping anybody from making this team. And I think I'm a big believer in
he's definitely not stopping them from taking a receiver. We'll say that.
That's what, yeah. And so this is idea that for me, I believe in volume drafting receivers and corners. And look what I've done. I've waited until the 5th round to draft a receiver in a corner, but that also was kind of looking at that point. That's why I said I got to get my guy. And I think it's really good value. And I think he'd be an exceptional wide receiver 3 that has a chance to be the kind of one of those 2B, even 2 dudes if all the cards fall the way they could.
I like it. I absolutely love it. I think it's an awesome pick. Like I said, I don't know that I've mocked any wide receivers to the 49ers in any of these that I've done. And it's not that I talked about receivers that I do like a lot, but the value versus some of the other players, when I compare them to like a Smile Mondon or a CJ West or some of those other guys, a Malachi Moore, for where I would be comfortable taking a receiver, I can't do it, So, but kudos to you. I think Ricky White's a good pick. And all right, let's get back. Pick 160 is what we're looking at next.
Okay.
Oh man, I've got a tough one in front of me. I don't know about you, but again, we don't go again until 227, which makes this really, really tough. I'm going to go with a player here. I think that I don't know that I've mocked at all to the 49ers or when I'm doing this, but a player that I do like.
You thinking?
Thinking. I think I got it though. I think I got my pick.
Okay. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I agree with this here. I would love to see the 49ers on Hard Knocks, Hindy. I really would. I think they've dodged it so much. And I would love to see it happen. So
let's see here.
Val asks, and I'll answer, and you can answer as well. But Val says, is Mondon Jr. a better linebacker than Teddy Buchanan, David? I think he is. I like him better than Teddy. I have them pretty close, though. I actually do have them very, very, very close. I personally prefer Smile. I don't know if Buchanan was even available or who you prefer, but I prefer Smile.
Yeah, I like Teddy. I like Jeffrey Bassa. I like a lot. I like Danny Stutzman. One of my Cowboy Boy favorites. But I would say, to me, Mondon is just so far and away the best coverage linebacker. And I when I'm drafting a linebacker, people say, "Oh, I need a guy that can." Yeah, that's great. But look, if you can't cover, man, you see what people like Kyle can do to you. You see what people there's like Andy Reid can do to you, right? Like if you can't cover as a linebacker, your defense is toast, right? I look at the Cincinnati Bengals, like they're not, their defensive line is horrible, right? Outside of Trey Hendrickson, he's not even there. But for years, man, linebacking core is it's like people talk about Jermaine. I still there's a reason why they score points against that team in any way imaginable. If you can't cover, man, you ain't it. It ain't gonna work. And we've seen now, if the defensive line isn't there, then Fred Warner, we could talk about, right? Sometimes looks a little bit more, obviously all pro Fred, no doubt about it, right? but he looks more pedestrian than you might like, right? When and any linebacker will when you don't have any defensive tackles there to sift things through. But Fred is at his best when he's going sideline to sideline, but he's also in coverage, man. Like that's his special sauce, right? Like that's what you pay big all pro Fred for. Okay. And if he didn't have that in his quiver, he's just not the same guy. And so to me, it's like when you get a chance to get a guy like who could develop into that. And guess what? Fred Warner was a 3rd round linebacker too. So to me, it was just so tough to pass him up there.
Have you made your pick?
I have made I'm a little bit. Have you made your pick?
I've made my pick. So why don't you tell me who you're choosing between? Like who are you?
All right.
Kind of back and forth on.
My confusion here is that I'm looking at Jamari Caldwell from Oregon, and I do think that he could be here. I don't think that he will be, and so I'm kind of like, well, should I take him if I don't really think it's realistic that he actually falls? But if I look at him on the board here, what's he ranked? What's his? I'm not really sure exactly what his ranking is. I mean, Dane Brugler, for instance. I'm just picking one guy. It's his 18th ranked defensive tackle. Now this is a big class, right? But all the guys above him are, they're gone already in this mock 2, right? Dane Brugler though is CJ West is his 21st ranked defensive tackle, and so like people are going to have different ways of thinking. Dane Brugler is, he's a good dude, but like that's what I'm saying. I don't look at his rankings to dictate how I rank my guys either, right? I love to like bounce things off of, but I strongly disagree with where he has him there. So yeah, I'm in between Jamari Caldwell. I'm also looking at a guy I'm looking at running back, and I know Kyle's going to want one. I think that they need one, and I'm thinking in between. I'm looking at Jaden Blue out of Texas, who's got that true breakaway speed. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get that. I know we get Guerrero, but like if we're talking about here in the 5th round, guys, like I want to get. If I can get athleticism, I want to get it. And I think Caldwell, though, is a guy that's like, what he's going to do. You already draft West, right? I already take Kenneth Grant, but like this team literally has no depth, and Caldwell's not a 3-down player, right? You're getting him to be, and there's very few guys like that in this draft. So those are the two guys.
I will say that Caldwell went one pick before I picked at 147. He went at 146 to the Panthers. So again, shows you how different these drafts are from each other. So
yeah, and I'm ready.
Okay, let's who'd you end up going with here?
I went with Jamari Caldwell. The if you can see that so I think it was just too good for me. It was too I couldn't pass it up. I'm not as big of a Jaden Blue fan. I think the 49ers really like Jaden Blue, and I think that I know that speed translates for Kyle. If in that system, I think Jaden Blue could really, really work. And that's one of those other things that maybe I got a little greedy in doubling up. But hey, look, this team needs players, and you can say 3 defensive tackles. I have not been mocking 3 defensive tackles all year, but with this type of quality at 160, to me, where the caliber of player, what he can do as a run stuffer, but also just clogging up lanes and clogging up blockers. Like this guy is, you talk about coming in waves. The Niners need to get back to that. And they're coming in waves. Right? I mean, it's like a crappy, like whirlpool in like a hotel in a Motel 6. Those are the kind of waves that are going right now on the defensive line for the 49ers. It's like these tepid, like, it's just like we're wading through, I don't know, like the baby pool. It's like, that's where I don't see. And with this, to me, I solidify this defensive line. I've got a guy like David Walker who's coming off the edge. I might address another guy, edge style, in the last 3 picks, possibly, but I know that these guys can come into camp, compete, and these guys are going to make the roster. I'm confident that all the guys that I've drafted are making the roster.
Yeah, and I think that's half the battle, especially when you start getting late here. I liked the Jamari Caldwell pick. I also like that you've completely beefed up the defensive line. Like, there are no issues anymore up the middle of defensive tackle. So David has solved that issue for the 49ers. I went with a player that, like I said, I don't know that I've mocked to the 49ers while doing these. But we talked a lot just a few minutes ago about, Smile Munden Jr., who I did not get. I ended up going with, I believe, Anthony Belton at that pick, and then Munden was obviously gone before I got to 138. You were able to get him. I think when I look at it, I look at Munden, Buchanan, and Stutzman. They're close to each other. I like Smile better, but they're close to each other. Then that next tier down, I look at Bossa, and I look at this player who I ended up taking, and that is Jack Kaiser out of Notre Dame.
Cabo boy.
Cabo boy. So here's what I like about Kaiser. He certainly is not a Dre Greenlaw when it comes to violence. I would say that's like the one thing that he does not have is just that pure violence to his game, which we're going to miss from Dre Greenlaw. And I think Winters does bring that to a certain point. But when I look at Kaiser, we talk about coverage guys. I think he covers very well, especially in zone coverage. I do think he can also stick with most running backs in man-to-man coverage as well. I don't think he's a true sideline to sideline guy, but I do think he gets downhill. He's a very short tackler, which is, God, half the battle. A lot of these guys can't even tackle the NFL level. You get into him. He hardly misses tackles. He does get downhill very quickly, although not violently. He's good in coverage, both man and zone, preferably zone. And like I said, he's not true sideline to sideline, but you already have Fred Warner. You're not going to get them both. You're not getting a perfect prospect at 160. But for me, I would like to add a linebacker to this room. And if I didn't go with one here, then it's just going to be too late. All those other guys are either gone or going to be gone. So for me, I went with Jack Kaiser. And the other thing I like about him is he was just on one of the better defenses in college football, a team that was in the national championship. Phenomenal coaching staff, by the way. So that being a leader on that team with that coaching staff, you're getting a high character, very coachable leadership type guy. Right away at 160. So for me, that's why I went with Jack Kaiser there.
I love it.
Okay, let's get into the 200s here. And this is what's fun about these final three picks at 227, 249, and 252. It really doesn't matter what position you get. You're just taking flyers at this point and hoping that somebody ends up being a really, really good player.
Right.
So that's where we're at now. To me, I just think you're taking those flyers. So there's some guys that I certainly love here that I would like to have. Man, dude, I can't. David, I don't know that speaking of wide receivers that I haven't mocked, I don't know that I've mocked a quarterback to the 49ers. But there's one right here that's just still here at 227 that I'm having a hard time saying no to right now.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know that I'm going to have the guts to take him, but
I think you should just for the vibes. But I've got my guy locked in.
Okay, hold on a second, because I do have to see who else is left, and do I think that they are going to make it to the 49ers the next pick? All three of these guys could be gone, and I like all three of them. But for the culture, I'll go with the quarterback just because. I will tell you real quick, the three players I'm looking at, and they still may end up on my roster depending on if they fall. But I've got Tyler Batty, who's still there. Caleb Brainsaw is still there. Nazir Stackhouse. I like all three of those. But I have filled those positions for at least the guys that I had to have early in the draft. So I'm going to go with the quarterback for S's and G's because I think it's fun. And if he was here at 227, I don't care. I'd have to do it. Kyle McCord. I mean, you talk about a Kyle Shanahan guy. This is it right here. He could be the next Kirk Cousins. So I went with Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. And I think that we'll have a good little battle between him and Mordecai. You know, who's the number 3 guy? We're about to find out. Kyle McCord or Mordecai there.
I'm glad you took Kyle McCord because we got a little we talk about vibes. I think we're on the same wavelength, the same school. I took the guy that was in the backfield that he was handing the ball to, actually more than throwing the ball to him. And that's running back. If you want to, and I'm just going to say, because it just dovetails in with this, is LaQuinn Allen, who's the best receiving running back, I think, maybe in the entire draft class. He is a dude that is just, he's 6 foot tall. He's got the reason he catches. I mean, he's a great natural pass catcher, but he also almost has 11-inch mitts. Kind of has those Odell Beckham mitts. So those are the kind of reason where like it's really reliable. Not just that he's a good route runner, that he's a fluid pass catcher, but also that he can snag the ball. So I know you're talking about Kyle. I love LaQuinn Allen. I think he's also a phenomenal pass protector, and that will play with Kyle Shanahan and getting him on the field in third down or making him as a decoy, even a little bit of that kind of like H-back Debo kind of thing. I'm not saying that he's Debo, but he's great value in the 7th round, and I've not been able to mock him for like a month. I'm always getting, and so I had to jump on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's so funny that we both got Syracuse guys. Okay, all right. Let's.
And I gotta let you know these next 2 picks are probably gonna go quicker because my wife's giving.
Totally fine. Totally fine.
Yeah, so
yep. All right, go ahead and let's just make both these picks, and then we'll
sure.
We'll just discuss it here. Yeah, one of them here for me. And
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. I got mine as well.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go. Hold on 1 second. I get my guy in here right now. I thought I was anyway.
I'll pull mine up and I'll start going through it because it's got my final here. So I told you that Nazir Stackhouse was one of the guys that I was looking at 227 before I took Kyle McCord. Out of the 3 guys I mentioned, he was the only one that was still left, so I went with him. Obviously, I have 2 defensive tackles already. It's weird things happen, especially for the 49ers. You know, they'll take a guy early that doesn't end up panning out, but they took the same position later, and that guy does pan out. Maybe for some reason, Tyleik Williams or Alfred Collins is a bust. I don't see it, but Nazir Stackhouse might be a good fit either way. And rotational piece, he'll certainly be fighting for a roster spot. There's no guarantee he would make it. But I like his archetype. I think he's a good run stuffer. So I went with him. And then I don't have a tight end. I wish I had taken one maybe earlier, depending. But I'll just go with the guy who athletically I think is the best out of the remaining tight ends, and that's Gavin Bartholomew, and that's who I went with. So let's pull up your draft. Did you make your picks?
And I have, yes.
Okay. Here we go. Jason Marsh and Nick Barton. All right. Talk to me real quick.
So yeah, hold on 1 second on this one. So I'll get this up here. All right. So yeah, I Jason Marshall is his name. But I got it on the split screen there. But yeah, Jason Marshall out of Florida. I really like this guy. I think that he will go a little bit higher. He's not going to be a guy that I'm counting on necessarily making the team. But if I was going to wait this long to get a corner, I think this is a guy that can really fight to get in there. I think he's going to contribute in special teams right away. I'm not going to belabor all the talking points on him, but I think that he has a lot of utility in what Robert Saleh likes to do. I think even if you ask him to, if you had to play a little bit into that kind of ranging safety, but I wouldn't count on him to do it, exclusively or even a lot. But that's a big guy. And then Nick Martin from Oklahoma State, linebacker that I love a lot. I think that at this point, getting him, that linebacker room is paper thin. I mean, it is paper thin. And having him and Smile Mondon coming in as rookies. Nick Martin's only 5'11", right? He's not the tallest guy in the world, but man, this guy can go sideline to sideline. He's great at the line of scrimmage. He can lay the wood. I mean, this is a dude that I think will go later. I think he probably makes it in the 7th round, 6th round because of his height, but I'm not worried about it at this point. This guy's a football player, no doubt about it. And I'm looking at all these guys and I'm thinking, okay, 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11 dudes. I knock on wood, I think these 11 dudes probably make the team. And with all the holes they got on this roster, I'm happy with that.
That's awesome. Well, for the sake of time, I think we'll go ahead and end it here. I don't think I expected to go this long. I am curious, just as on our way out, is there one regret you have in this draft, or just maybe one position that you wish you had gotten that you didn't, or gotten earlier? It just didn't fall your way. Is there anything that you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jalen Noel at 43 would be a little steep. I look back at Azaria Thomas, and I would have gone back if I really look at the way this came out. I would have taken Azaria Thomas at 43. That's how much I love him. And then I feel like I could have really successfully addressed DT, but it might have compromised some other positions I went to. So that and Noel Williams. But other than that, no, I'm looking at this. I get Armand Membu, who's my 3rd player on the board. I get Kenneth Grant and CJ West and Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle. David Walker is undersized at his height, but I love his juice. I love his athleticism. I think letting him do what he does is going to be great. Mondon, Sanker, White, and then the guys at the end all got not just a fighting chance, but could carve out roles. I think Marshall, not so much, but LaQuinn Allen, absolutely rookie year. Will get some minutes and not be relied to be like a 1B or a 1C or a 2B or 2C, but a legitimate pass catching player, an offensive weapon.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for me, I didn't get any other. I think what I got an offensive tackle. I didn't get any interior offensive lineman. So that's probably the one for me. I was certainly back and forth. Noel Williams fell to me. A lot of times I'm going Kandra there, but Kandra was gone at 147, and I couldn't say no to Noel Williams, so I took the chance. He ended up falling. Then I went with Malachi Moore. By the time it got to 160, Jake Majors was gone, who's another guy that I like. So it wasn't in the cards for me. That's probably the one regret I have. I wish somehow I could have gotten that interior guy, but it didn't work out. And there were some prospects that I also really liked, and I decided to go that route instead. So Shay comes in one more time and says, love both drafts, but can we trust the Niners to get the obvious players and BPA guys on a scale from 1 to 10? How confident are you guys? 6. There's going to be something that happens on this draft, and we're going to go. I'm going to be live for most of the draft. David, you're probably going to be with me most of the draft. There's going to be a pick that the 49ers make, and it happens every year, where we look at each other and go, what the F? So I just hope it's not at 11, right? Like, can we not do it at 11 or 43, maybe do it at 100 or something, so it's not as bad? That's all I can ask for.
Yeah, much love, Shay, bro. I would say that I think it's just got to stop with this gold helmet stuff all the time. Like I'm out on Mike Green for reasons where I feel I've got enough information where he's not on my board. But it doesn't have to be that extreme. Like it doesn't have to be like everybody who's polished, who's going to like have a podcast career. No shade on these guys that are doing it for all these teams, but like, come on now, we don't have to not everybody has to be Fred Warner. Not everybody has to be, and Fred Warner is amazing. What I'm saying is like, not everybody has to be like, you're not always going to get that. You're not always going to be like, so I look at your draft, like a guy like Michael Williams. He ain't great on the mic. He's pretty quiet dude, reserved dude. He's still a locker room leader, high character, but like, he's not going to be like the polished guy that you can market, but he's a dude that's going to get it done. He played through injuries. He's tough. Those are the type of guys I want. Right. And I don't know. Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10. I don't know. I'm probably in there like 6 or 6.5, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, not too
So,
high.
but by the way, I love your draft. You drafted 3 Williams brothers. You drafted
Yeah,
Michael, Tyleek,
dude, of
and Noel.
course.
I mean, so now we're gonna have M.
By
Williams.
design.
Yeah, they're all gonna hate that. They wanted to have it just, but then I honestly look. You talked about, oh, I won the draft because I had Armand. I'm looking at Michael, Tyleek, Alfred. Like, dang, man, like those are all 3 dudes that have been on my guy lists. For me, I love CJ West so much that I'm stoked. But Kenneth Grant, Armand Mambu, that, and then to get Mondon at 100, I'm happy with it. But I'm looking at your list. I would be stoked with this draft. There's some guys that I don't like as much as you do. Like Miguel, like Jack Kaiser, I'm not as high or whatever. So what? You probably feel the same way about me. Like this is a great class. This is a great class. Those top 3 dudes for sure. Like you walk away with that, and it's like everything's gravy.
Yeah, you feel great about it. That's what I look at both of our top 3, and I'm like, okay, I feel good about it. From there, it really is up in the air, and who do you like and not. So, thank you, David, for doing the show with me. We will be back in a couple weeks together, doing the drafts live. So definitely don't miss out on that. Thank you to everybody in the chat, everybody that contributed. Shay, thank you so much. And everybody else. Appreciate y'all. See you soon. Much love. Peace.